No matter where you come from, no matter where you're going, here's a place where you can take comfort in the knowing that whether if you come to stay a while or just passing through, this door is open to you. Come and let's be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come, love and be loved. From the blissed out to the turned out, from the pampered to the abused, this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. The God in you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you.
Good morning and welcome. This door is open to you. I'm here with myself this morning. We want to welcome each of you that are here in the building. It's a rainy day here in Western North Carolina, and those of us that are here and still coming in, take this opportunity to turn and wave to our camera and to welcome those that are joining us from wherever you are this morning. Thank you so much for being here. We always like to, first thing, begin our time together in prayer, so I invite you to join me in an opening prayer this morning. We turn our awareness within, and we do so in the acknowledgement that we are an expression of all that is. We give thanks for this day and for the peace, the presence that is always right here. We give thanks for this opportunity to be here together today as we explore spiritual understanding. What is that? And how do we open to that? Where does it come from? What is its ultimate goal? And so we open this day together in spirit and truth that we may be opened in our understanding, that we may be the way, that we may be blessed and we may be a blessing. Thank you, God, and so it is. Amen. Again, I want to welcome you this morning. We like to acknowledge our youth program and our children. We're currently, hopefully the COVID mandates will be lifting and things will change soon. We really look forward to that. We're currently still serving children 5 and older. So if we have young people here today, there's some already in the back, but Reverend Gabby and Reverend Barbara Ann are here to work with our youth. And we always affirm this to them, that we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity in you. And so to these children and to all children, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity in you. Have a wonderful Sunday school experience this morning. I'm excited. Today we have a special guest with us, our music director, Richard Schulman. I told Randy if I called him Richard, it's because I've been saying, Richard, would you give me that song for 7 years now? But Richard is out of town for 3 weeks, and so today we have with us Randy Hale, and I'll tell you just a little bit about him. Yeah. Many of you remember Randy. He's been with us before at Christmas, but next week we're going to have Amy Steinberg with us, joining us on piano and for some music, and then Melody Cooper joining us on piano, and I think Kat will be here with her that week. But Randy Hale, Randy is a veteran singer, songwriter, composer. Randy has written music for television, for film, for theater parks, and for educational projects. He's actually worked with Steven Spielberg on some of his work. So he's quite accomplished in his area of music, and so we're happy to have him here. He grew up in Bangkok. He grew up Methodist, found his way to Buddhism, and now he found his way to unity. Sounds like a normal path to me. He's working on, he's produced several hymns, but his newest hymn is called Hymns, Hymns, Hymns and Hers. And so I've asked him this morning to kick us off with a song. And so I ask you to just to open your heart for a new understanding of the song that says, How Great Thou Art. Would you welcome Randy Hale with our amazing Unity Band.
awesome wonder, consider all the worlds in it made. I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, the power throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. I went through the woods, and forest glade I wander, and hear the birds sing sweetly in the trees. When I look down from lofty mountain grandeur, and hear the brook and feel the gentle breeze, then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art.
Randy, that was absolutely beautiful. And thank you, Mary Kay. She'll be back a little bit later. But Dave, Joel, Pete, and Joey, we are so happy. Would you give our whole band your love and appreciation this morning? We're so happy to have each and every one of them. I'm going to ask you to stand. I know you're in a mask and we're not really hugging people right now, but you know what? That doesn't stop you from connecting. So we take this opportunity to connect to one another, to extend that welcome, that namaste greeting, and to turn and to again welcome those that are joining us virtually. Thank you so much. You may be seated. Today, in just a moment, I'm going to be talking about spiritual understanding. And I've given a lot of thought to understanding, spiritual understanding. You know, if a large building caught on fire, and we had 4 reporters, and we said one reporter, go to the north end of the block. And we sent a second and said, go to the south block corner. And another to the east and the west. If we sent one to each corner and we said, now record exactly what is happening here. And they watched the entire thing from beginning to end, and then they all came back. And they said, now this is what happened. This is my understanding. This is the truth of what happened. We'd actually come back with 4 experiences of truth. We'd come back with 4 things that were true, that were their reality. But do any of them constitute the whole truth in capital T? That there's a bigger picture. And spiritual understanding perhaps is about opening to the mystery. Part of spiritual understanding begins with the recognition, I don't know everything. Could you say that with me? I don't know everything. And to realize that I hold my views lightly. Say that with me. I hold my views lightly. Perhaps my point of view comes from the south end of life. Perhaps your point of view is coming from the north end of life, and some points of view we say came from outer space. We don't even know how they came up with that point of view. But to learn to realize that we hold our points of view lightly is where we begin to embrace the mystery, to say, you know what, there's a higher picture, a higher something seeking to be revealed, and that's what I want to open to. It was especially important to me this week. I'm sure unless you've been hiding out, you know about what's going on in the Ukraine and in Russia. How many of you have cried about it? Be honest. Yeah, I hope we all reach that point. The scriptures say time and time again, Jesus was moved with compassion. It means that the conundrum, the messes of life, you can fix a problem. You cannot fix a predicament or a conundrum. You have to transcend into a higher way of being. Our world is finding itself in a predicament that we can't fix. And it's calling us to open up and to find the way. What divine idea is seeking to be born here? And so we hold those individuals that are in fear for their life. We hold those families that are being separated. We hold those that are in pain and hurting. We also hold those that are fighting and are being driven by motivations that are coming from the love of power instead of the power of love. And then we look in our own lives and say, Holy Spirit, what's mine to do? How do we respond? Well, today we're going to move into those waters of spiritual understanding, and Randy's going to lead us in. He's going to share a beautiful song, a familiar song that says, "Let it be." Randy.
Myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she's standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. There will come an answer. Let it be. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer. Let it be. Although they may be parted, there's still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. There will come an answer. Let it be. answer, let it be. And when the night is cloudy, there is still a light that shines on me. Shine until tomorrow, let it be. I wake up to the sound of music. Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. 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 Speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
Wow. Our band, that was wonderful. I love the tension. I told Randy this morning he looked like Mozart. He's got his Mozart Einstein look going on. Randy, that was absolutely gorgeous. I love what you did with that song. Thank you so much. Let it be, yeah. Let it be. I love how he created that too, because you can feel the tension in it. It's almost, he captured the heart of that, the tension between wanting to let it be and wanting to understand. And sometimes it feels like that struggle to find that. Today is week 7 in a 12-week series that is based on 12 powers, 12 attributes of who we are, and the reality, the totality of our being and our spirit. That we have these things as a part of who we are, and yet we're growing into the comprehension, the apprehension, the realization of them. The first week we talked about faith, which is being spiritually established. It's having your being established in the truth of who you are. Strength is being spiritually enabled. And then we talked about love, being spiritually impressed and expressed. It's love impressing and expressing through us. We talked about wisdom, which is being spiritually enlightenment, it's discernment, it's righteous judgment. We talked about power, being spiritually empowered. Last week we talked about imagination, being spiritually inspired. And today we talk about understanding. And what is spiritual understanding in light of just general understanding? Because we all seek to understand, and yet that's not the fullness of what spiritual understanding is. And I was thinking about how we learn and how we understand things. I actually thought about Einstein, and there's a story told of Einstein that, his theory of relativity, and he was very popular, and he was more of an introvert. He liked to be by himself and to think and to write and to create. But he was often asked to go out and speak, and so he did, and he would go out and he would speak, and he would pretty much do the same spiel, so to speak, over and over. And as the story goes, it was one night he wasn't feeling that great, and he just was not wanting to have to do this, and his chauffeur was driving him, and the chauffeur kind of had long hair and had an Einsteinish look. And the chauffeur said, "Listen, Einstein, I've heard you do this. Every time you've done it, I could get up and do what you do." And so Einstein said, "Great," and he handed him his hat. And so that night, the chauffeur put on the hat and kind of covered his face a little bit and went up and stood. And he began to espouse exactly like a parrot. He began to parrot back, and he said exactly everything Einstein had said. And he did a really good job. And Einstein's sitting in the back listening. And finally, the guy up front was feeling so good about himself. He said, "So I can take a few questions now." And And so some person stood up and they asked this really complex question, really trying to show how smart they were. And the chauffeur now had no idea. But the chauffeur said, you know what? That question sounds pretty complex, but it's actually so simple. I'm going to call on my chauffeur here in the back and let him answer that question for you. That what we think we understand, the knowledge we think we possess, the comfort we have in showing up is really largely dependent on, do we really believe that we have resourcefulness to greater understanding? Can we truly turn within and open up to greater understanding? Spiritual understanding is essentially spiritual realization. It's the dawning of truth, truth with a capital T. Spiritual understanding is the actualization of who you are. We are the image and the likeness of God. But have any of us fully embodied it, mastered it? Can we manifest all of our seed potential? Not yet, but we're growing in it. And so spiritual understanding is that dimension of your being that it's like the Talmud said, there's an angel over every blade of grass but that whispers, grow, grow, grow. There's something within your soul that says, be realized, be realized, be realized. Grow in the understanding. Grow in the realization so that you may actualize the fullness of your potential. And so that's really what spiritual understanding is about. The logical mind wants to know why. The logical mind's nature is, our logical mind is much like a detective. We want to know who did it, why they did it, and how to make them stop doing it, so to speak. The logical mind creates meaning. The unenlightened ego says it wants to understand, but the unenlightened ego is always about comparing. The unenlightened ego wants to compare, sort, control. The unenlightened ego wants to survive, save face, wants to be right, typically. But the soul, you see, the soul wants to be fully expressed. And there's the rub, there's the tension that is life, we're wired to survive and we're created to thrive. That's why the scriptures give the paradox, die while you're still living. That makes no sense. But what that paradox says is if you continue to live at a survival level, you will never free your soul to thrive at the full level of your being. That you must be willing above all, even if it meant laying down your life, you must be willing above all to be committed to the soul's journey and the soul's path. And that, my friends, that's the mark and the difference of the mystics and the masters and the peacemakers, because we can see those lives who have said, my life is dedicated to a life of service. My life is dedicated to the fulfillment of the divine idea that I am, and that I seek to understand and bring that forth in and through everything else. It still doesn't mean that we don't have our detective self and try to figure it out. That's important. It certainly doesn't mean we don't self-reflect, because we should, but it just simply invites us to ask ourselves continually, what is the greatest thing that I'm seeking to understand here? You see, a child wants to understand many things. There's a line in a movie that I love when a little English boy says, Mommy, does a bee have knees? Does a bee have knees? Kids have perpetual questions. They want to learn. They want to understand. Because for children, understanding is how we build our own reality. Do you understand? We build our personal reality through that. But the soul wants to build our being. And there's a difference there. And that's why when I started with the illustration of standing on 4 different corners is to realize I have my experience of reality. This is my truth. This is the way I see it. This is my reality. And I need to learn to hold it lightly to realize you also have a unique experience of reality. But is my ultimate goal to build my being, to build my light body, to build the vessel? Is that the ultimate goal? Because that's what spiritual understanding does. Jesus was a master teacher. He used what we call parables. They were teaching stories. The power of a story is it allows you to put yourself in it. And when you can put yourself in it, you see how it applies to you. And that's how understanding is a whole being experience. It's like when you really, have you ever had something dawn on you? Like when the light goes on and something really dawns on you, it's a whole being. It's like boop, 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 boop. I just recalibrated. I'm slightly different because I have now apprehended a new idea. Well, spiritual understanding is about the apprehension, the ultimate apprehension of who we are, the divine idea that we are. And so the many different parables and stories were all about revealing the truth of who you are. They were about healing the misperceptions there. One of the most famous parables, it shows up on what's called the Sermon of the Mount. It's the parable of the wise builder and the foolish builder. When I was a little kid, we sang a song in Sunday school about the foolish man built his house upon the sand, and then the wise man built his house upon the rock. That if you build upon the sand, the rain comes down and the house goes flat. But if you build upon the rock, the rains come down and the house stands strong. What Jesus was conveying to that audience when he said the foolish one builds his house upon the sand, but the wise builds the house upon the solid foundation. He was wanting them to put themselves inside of the story because the key image here is the foundation. What he was saying is the house is your external body, but the foundation is your true self, which rests upon the infinite presence. That our purpose in this life is that the foundation of our being be established on the truth of our being. And that all of life is about peeling away how we know ourselves, how we limit ourselves, our idea of self, our ideas of others that are not founded on the truth. So let's pause for a second. If everybody in this world, just like this, could instantaneously have our identity of who we are be founded on the truth of our spirit, would there be war going on anywhere? No, there couldn't be. I couldn't fight you because to fight you would be to fight me. I couldn't harm to harm none. That whatever is seeking to be understood, whatever is seeking to be healed, whatever is seeking to be revealed, it ultimately ties back to, do you know who you are? And so all of those teachings were seeking to bring forth that level of understanding. There's an instance in the Bible where Jesus, they encounter a blind man, and the disciples said, Rabbi, who has sinned that this man is born blind? Was it his parents or was it him? Now, just as a side note, that speaks to karma. So if you don't believe the Bible speaks to karma, it does. It also speaks to reincarnation if you dig through it. And so they're saying, Rabbi, why is the man born? Is he reaping his own karma or is he reaping his parents' karma? And Jesus basically said, that question is not the ultimate question. He said, neither this man or his parents, but this has happened so that the work of God may be displayed in his life. You see, he was saying, so often you're trying to find answers. You want to know what to blame. You want to know that, and that keeps you here. But the question to ask is, what spiritual insight is seeking to be realized in that man's life? What spiritual understanding is seeking to be gained? Because I have now encountered this. You see, anything that's touching our life is saying, hey, there's something that can be, some insight that can be gained through me. Perhaps there's some idea that is seeking to come to life through me. Spiritual understanding. There's a disciple that represents all of these qualities, and the disciple that represents spiritual understanding is Thomas. Many of you may know Thomas was called what? Doubting Thomas. In John chapter 20, he refuses to believe that Jesus' resurrection, he refused to believe it. He had to go and personally experience it. And so the reason that Thomas represents spiritual understanding is because true spiritual understanding can only happen through personal experience. That you may have great ideas, you may have great insight, and I can gain value through that, but until I have an experiential relationship with it, it really hasn't been a total being experience. So Thomas represents that aspect of us that has the capacity to experience it and to know it for ourselves, to make it a whole being experience. And so how does it relate in our life? Spiritual understanding, how do we get it? The scriptures very clearly tell us, ask and you shall receive. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be opened. I've always found it interesting that it goes ask, seek, knock, A-S-K, ask. Now, I don't know what it translates to if you look at the original Greek or Latin. It probably doesn't follow through, but in English, I think that's fascinating. Ask, seek, and knock. That the way we gain insight and understanding is by desiring it, by asking for it. And a lot of times there's the tendency to reduce these scriptures to make them mean what we want to mean. These scriptures are quoted quite often in what I would call name it, claim it spirituality. That if you can name it, you can have it, you can manifest it. And manifestation and creation is definitely a part of our nature, but that's to miss the whole point. Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of God. Seek first to understand the reality of your being and the reality of all things, and then from that, everything else flows. So when you really understand this in its context, when it says ask and receive spiritual understanding. Seek and find spiritual understanding. Knock and be opened in spiritual understanding. And then, when you're opened in spiritual truth, spiritual law, spiritual understanding, you begin to be an instrument where miracles happen through your life. Healing happens in your presence. Divine ideas occur to you. Inspiration, intuition, the ability to manifest, the ability to have the resources line up to support whatever you're being inspired to do. Those things begin to happen when first and foremost, our ultimate aim is, let me understand the truth of my being, the reality of the great reality, and what is my role to play here. So asking and seeking and finding those things. The Reverend Jim Rosemergy, He's going to be here for 3 weeks actually this summer sharing with you. This is from his book, The Quest for Meaning. He's one of my favorite Unity authors and ministers. He's currently retired, but he's such a deep writer, and he's an individual, one of the individuals whose lives I admire. For example, Wayne Dyer. I had the pleasure of getting to know him a little bit when I lived on Maui because he lived there. One of the things I appreciated about Wayne is he lived out loud. If you read his earliest writings to his latest, you saw his transformation. Jim Rosemergy, the man, is continually transforming. And that's my desire, to be ever evolving and transforming. And so Jim, to me, is one of those individuals. He writes in this book, he said, many years ago, I went to a log cabin in the woods to determine if I could write constantly for a period of 3 days. I'd felt guided to do this for a long time, and so I entered the cabin, I got a fire going in the fireplace, and I set up my 64K Pro computer, tells you how old it is, on a card table near a picture window looking out over the mountain lake. I began to write. After having written only 2 paragraphs, the cursor on the computer locked up. I ran my hands across the keys and moved them, but nothing happened. I removed the disk. How many of you, just say it out loud, let the Lord love you, how many of you remember floppy disk and computers? Young people who are watching a live stream, they really did exist. So he pulled it out and put it back in, and he tried again and started it over again. The cursor still blinking, nothing would happen. He said, I liked what I had written, so I took the time and I wrote it all longhand and then shut off the computer, brought it up still one more time, and still nothing happened. At this point, I began to realize why a cursor is called a cursor. Having lost my sense of an indwelling God, I looked up and said, all right, God, I've come here. For years, I felt your guidance to come and write, and finally I'm here, and the computer locks up. I mean, what is this about? He said, it was one of those times when I literally heard a voice within that said, Jim, your purpose is not to write. Your purpose is to know me. Your purpose is to know me. He said, I was shocked. I returned to the computer, and just like that, it freed up and it never froze again. I wrote for 3 days. Nothing ever came of the written words, but I never forgot Spirit's simple message, know me. That event changed my life and gave me purpose. It also demanded that I change the focus of my life. When our pursuit is spiritual understanding, our pursuit is also to know God, to know self, and to be the way. Now, in unity, we talk about the nature of God and the nature of self, and what you realize eventually is they are one and the same. I had a prayer, I was sitting in meditation one time, and how many of you know what a Russian nesting doll is? It's like a figurine or a doll, but you can open it, and then there's another one just like it inside, a little smaller, and then you open it again, and there's another, and so usually it goes from several to down, 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 down. I was sitting, and I was just in quiet meditation, and this image, I saw myself as this little teeny Darlene, little mini me. Maybe that's where it came from. Maybe somebody else had that image. Little teeny me. And then in my mind's eye, all of a sudden, it was another one came, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one. And it just kept going and going and going until the boundaries of my being disappeared, and there was God. And I got it. Spiritual understanding dawned on me. I realized that I am an expression of all that is. It doesn't matter if I refer to God as dear sir, dear ma'am, or Howard, our Father who art in heaven, Howard be his name, as the little kid said. It doesn't matter how we refer to the all that is. I don't think it matters so much if we see God out there and us in here, but in time, if we honestly pursue to know ourselves and to know our God, we will come to realize that we are an expression, and at some level of our being, we are one and the same. It doesn't mean that all that my experience is in whatever size of me I am this day, and let's call that the size of our consciousness. Whatever the size and the shape of my consciousness that I'm coming from, I am not at all saying that I am able to bring forth all that God is. But what I am saying is all that I am dwells in the image and likeness of God. And somewhere in the depths of my being, God and I become one. Does that make sense? And that when you really begin to apprehend and get that, how you relate to life and how you show up becomes very different. Would you give me the first image? The artist Ted DeGrasse, a great American artist, he's no longer living, but a lot of his work is some of the most replicated in art. His subjects were often children of the desert. That's a very famous one of his paintings there. And if you take a look at that, he painted children with just these kind of big little eyes and some simplicity. There was an honesty there. But what a lot of people never picked up, if you look at Ted DeGrasse's work, go to the next slide. Almost always in his adults, look at the one on the far, your left. You see the child, the little child with the two eyes, but the parent has none. In a lot of his artwork, when the images of adults, when he painted them, he never painted facial features. And in an interview once, somebody asked him about that. They asked him why, and he said, in my experience, children know who they are. They're animated by the Great Spirit. They're animated by the life force. They are one and the same with it. It shines through. And he said, but in my experience of most adults, they have lost that connection. It's as if it has been covered over, and the organic divinity, their radiance no longer shines through. Instead, they seek for you to see their image. That's very powerful if you really look at that and understand what he was seeking to convey in his art. That so often in our life, we lose sight of that connection of who we are, that to know God and to know ourselves, ideally it becomes our most earnest desire. John Wesley, the founder of Methodism, said quite often, he said, we have a greeting that typically says, how are you doing? And he said, wouldn't it be amazing if we all changed and we took a moment to connect with one another and say, how's your soul? How's your soul? That's very powerful. How many of you would be willing to try that out with someone? What will probably happen is you say, how your soul? They'll be like, I'm doing, what did you say? How's my soul? Huh? How is my soul? I don't know. And to ask yourself, how's your soul? If all of us could develop that tenderness and to be in touch with our soul, with our sacred connection, My friends, I think our world has gone so crazy and so far away. It's the love of power versus the power of love, and there's a shifting and a shaking taking place, and each of us are being called back into that to say, how is it with my soul? What's the quality of my connection? Wilson Van Dusen is an author. He wrote a book, The Way to the Experience of God. And he shares a little bit about his personal experience. He said, I'm a lifelong and natural mystic. I have known the direct experience of God countless times. But once after giving a talk in a church, an elderly woman waited until the crowd of people who came up to me afterward clear. I saw that she was not well, not long for this world. Acting very circumspectly, she recited a short dream in which a golden sun came to her. She shared the dream with me and asked me, she said, Wilson, was that sun God? I first thought of my standard reply, well, we would need to go through the dream and to see what it was so that she could arrive at her own understanding. But then in that moment, I was struck by the total emotional impact of the larger situation. This woman was dying, and it mattered very much to her if she had met God even once in her life. So I cut straight to the point. Yes, it was God, and we both broke into tears. But how sad, she had the marks of a very spiritual person whose life was embedded in God. And yet she asked desperately if she even once met God. To me, she represents most of humanity. She is on the path, but she does not recognize the signs. She does not consciously live with God as the very body of God, as the living vessel of all that God is. How sad when we seek to understand so many things, yet fail to understand the most important thing, that you live in God. God lives in you, that wherever you are, as we say in unity, God is. Sometimes that's a big difference between organized religion and spirituality. There's a lot of value and reason that we can use religion, but when religion begins to box God in, when religion begins to box in and say, we stand on this corner of the street and this is the way it is, then we're missing the whole point. Because our whole point is to be willing to hold some mystery. Because unless we're comfort with some unknowing, in Hawaii there's a saying that says, ahavale ke nanahuna. Ahavale ke nanahuna. It means let that which is unknown become known. That in my life, am I willing to develop ways to do this, to create the spaciousness, to be in the discomfort, the tension of not knowing? Do any of us really know why the war is going on right now? Do we really know? And we can point to a lot of reasons, but do we really know? And so, there's a time and a place to try to figure out some of those things. But the greatest thing we can do is what do we know? We know that it is terribly sad. We know that it is heartbreaking. And we also know that it does not have to be that way. And so to create some space in the unknowing and saying, yeah, there's a lot of things, that I can point to, but honestly, I don't know why it's happening, but it breaks my heart. And can I now be open? Can I create the spaciousness? Can I be in the mystery long enough for some revelation or realization or idea to reach me? What if? What if our council of world leaders who are trying to figure this out, what if they would go sit in a room together and all come in one mind and in one accord and let someone come in with them and lead them in a meditation, and they'd be willing to let it all go and open their minds and their entire beings to higher guidance and a higher way? What would that look like? Well, last week we talked about imagining. I've been imagining that this week. If we've got something with our spiritual community, we put out that on the 12, the 3, the 6, and the 9, pause and hold in prayer, send light. There is another way. There is a higher way. Lead us in spiritual understanding. Randy, would you give me that song? Spiritual understanding comes through our quest to ask, to be open, to create some comfort with the mystery, with the unknowing. And it is in our pursuit to know God, to know self, and to know ourselves as the way. This final story I heard this week, and it just touched me very deeply. It came from a priest. His name is Tom Baker. And he said, I remember a parishioner named Bobby Feldman, who people said was bad to the bone. Bobby was against everybody. He picked fights. He ruined people's lawns by driving over them. He squealed tires in people's gardens. One night, he vandalized the church. He broke some stained glass windows, and a second time he came back and he even tried to steal the chalice. But fortunately, I was there and I caught him. Bobby was a nightmare, and people wanted him to go away. One night near Easter, he did. Bobby died in a fiery crash of his car, and honestly, the parish breathed a collective sigh of relief. Some parishioners even declared that in Bobby's dying, God's will had been done, as if God had finally had enough of Bobby and rubbed him out, a very human way of explaining things. We had a funeral for Bobby, but the only person who attended was his mother and myself. The church was empty except for a casket and a tall, thin, weathered-looking woman and me, the priest. There was nothing good to say about Bobby Feldman, no redeeming qualities. He even hated his dog, and we think his dog may have hated him. So I read the scripture about the thief on the cross, who Jesus said would be with him in paradise. And then I closed the Bible and I looked at Bobby Feldman's mother and I said, well, tell me about your son. And then I walked down and I sat beside her. He was just so angry, she says, always was. Even as a baby, his cry was angry. It was like he objected to being here. And his anger made him do so many bad things. Early on, he was out of control, and I felt like I lived in the principal's office. I was called there all the time. Finally, his father and I, as he got older, just had to stay out of his way. It literally was the only way we could survive him. Still, I always loved him. I loved him in a distant sort of way, and I thought of him as a terrible mystery. All the world's fury packed into one person, my son, Robert. There was so much wisdom in Bobby's mother, her not understanding him. He was a mystery to her. Her judgment never reached him, never imprisoned him like his own anger did. That's the wisdom of Jesus. Forgive them, Abba. They don't know what they're doing. These words stand as a comfort and a reminder to all of us in these troubled times. You see, it's easy to divide the world into good and bad, the just and the unjust, those who are with God or with us, and those who are against God or against us. It's easy to condemn someone who is really a spiritual brother or sister, perhaps in a very fearful, angry disguise, just like Bobby Feldman. Have you ever noticed that before we condemn someone, we usually claim to understand them? It's much more difficult to condemn a mystery. To enter into the mystery with them is to enter into the sacred with them. He goes on and says, in the gospel story, when Jesus appeared to his disciples after his resurrection, he has no harsh words for their behavior at his crucifixion. They're running away. It's a mystery. Peter's denial of Jesus, it's a mystery. Judas' betrayal of him, it's a mystery. Instead, the focus of Jesus is love. To be the way before them and to remind them that they were also there to be the way. That's powerful. Spiritual understanding is calling us into the mystery to recognize the limits of our own, what we really understand. But we don't stop there. We deliberately enter into that mystery, which is God, and we say, Ahavale neke nanahuna, let that which is unknown, Holy Spirit, become known in me. Whatever quality of being that I need to embody, let it come forth. Whatever idea is ready to be anchored as it is in heaven, so on earth, let it come to me. Spiritual understanding is about continually making yourself available to be the way. Behold, I am making all things new. Are you continually being the way? Or as I so often do, are you continually being in your way? We're going to take this song into a time of meditative prayer that says, open the eyes of my heart. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. Oh, I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, love. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to be you. I want to be you. I invite you to close your eyes. And as you turn your awareness within, imagine yourself as a little image of you. And just see it as a image of you that's painted on a little wooden egg. You see you there? And now just imagine, if you will, that it all of a sudden gets bigger. It's the same you, it's another wooden egg, but now you see yourself expressed in a greater way. Just use your imagination for the next few seconds and just allow yourself, with your imagination, to see yourself continually replicate, and yet a larger expression, a larger image of yourself. And if it's not already done so, allow that image of yourself to become now so large that it's now beyond this building. The building is actually contained within yourself. And yet you continue to see that idea and image of yourself continue to expand. Watch yourself expand to such an extent that now you see the earth within your whole being. Watch yourself expand again until you see a greater cosmos within your entire being. Now, once more, watch yourself expand again and watch yourself vapor. Just turn to vapor. Although it is but an idea, an image, a creation in the mind, it leads you to spiritual truth. For each and every one of you hold an idea of who you are. You hold an idea of how the world works. You hold ideas of justice and injustice. You hold ideas of right and wrong. You hold ideas of other people. And as you hold these ideas, it is just as an egg that contains that idea. I ask you today, can you hold that idea with soft boundaries? Can you begin to bring awareness to your own process of awareness, of thinking, of perception? Can you bring such an awareness to your capacity to observe that you learn to hold everything as it is not surrounded as solid, yet it is surrounded by vapor, and it is just one idea of possibility. And yet you are contained and held within the vast mind from which all creation streams forth. The idea of what humanity can be has not yet been brought onto earth, and yet it is seeking to be born in your midst right here and right now. And if you feel the tension, if you feel the pains, they are the pains of creation. You are feeling the stretch marks. You are feeling the confusion, the disintegration of the ideas literally falling apart because they no longer can hold your reality. What is being called forth is a greater idea, a cosmic idea, a cosmic you. And you have the seeds of becoming already activated within and among you. You are the way. So do not be dismayed. Yes, be moved to sorrow. Yes, it's okay to cry. It's healthy to cry, because unless you feel the depth of the reality in which you have co-created, you will never lay it on the altar of your heart to be genuinely transformed. Feel the pain, if you must, to become the opening for the healing. Because you can be present to the wound without becoming the wounded. You are here to be present, to bear witness, to be moved with compassion, that you may be the way of God, of greatness, of goodness, of love. So imagine yourself once more just mingling with the cosmic, all that is. And in that cosmic dance, just see the particles as particles of all creation, and each and every one of you seeking to bring those great possibilities. In this room now, begin to reform the image of yourself, but yet see more light in that image of yourself. And as you begin to see that image of yourself now reducing and coming back down, click, 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 back into current time and reality, see the image of all beings infused with more light and now coming right back into this dimension, this place, this time. Allow yourself to grow in spiritual understanding. Allow yourself to let go and to be the way. So we sing, open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Now, love, open the eyes of my heart, love. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to be you. I want to be you. Now, Lord, open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. Oh, I want to see you. I want to see you. Now, love, open the eyes of my heart, love. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to be you. I want to be you. I want to be you. Would you stand with us? Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. I want to see. Now, love, I want to be you. Open the eyes of my heart, love. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to be you. I want to be you. I want to be you. Play it, Randy. Play it. Of my heart, love, I want to be you. Open the eyes Open the eyes of my heart. Oh, I want to be you. I want to be you. Oh, love. Open the eyes of my heart, love. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to be you. I want to be you. I want to be you. Both verses. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. I want to see you. Now, love, I want to be you. Open the eyes of my heart, love. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to be you. I want to be you. And together we go. Om, which says, so it is, and so it shall be, and so you are. Amen. You may be seated. Wow, that was a nice journey. Our live streamers, we want to thank you for joining us and helping that image of all over just come through. I also want to, again, thank it. I have a very specific way of service is alive to me, and so working with musicians is not always easy, working with someone like me, and they did fabulous, and so I want to just say thank them. Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to thank you for your presence, your support. Last week, we had our annual meeting. That was recorded. It's online if you didn't get a chance to see that. We also have annual reports printed, and they're available for you as well. So we'll be sharing little bits in that as we go along. But I just want to thank you so much. And we had a couple of our former members die. I'll have some information up next Sunday on that. But we had 2 individuals in our congregation last year who left a bequest to a church. We had some other really wonderful things come in. But most importantly, each of you did what yours is to do. And you want to know what? In the history of the 70-year church, we ended in our best year ever. That is saying a lot. And so we have great vision. There's a reason for that. And so I want to thank our live streamers. I want to thank each of you. Here on Sunday, we have a blue box if you'd like to leave a physical donation. Most of you are giving now online. We've had a question that came up. People had requested, can they just do the text? Because a lot of churches now, they have a text to give. And so thanks to Donna Brickey in the back, who does so much for us, we were able to do that. So there's we're just trying to make it easy for you. So I want to thank each and every one of you. Give yourself a hand for your continued love and support. And to this amazing band, our staff, our board, each and every one of you. So we thank you for that. We have one final song that just is going to take this to that final level with Mary Kay and our band singing, Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. I'm ready for some greater understanding. Here we go. Y'all can stand, I'm pressing on the upward way. New heights I'm gaining every day, still praying as I'm upward bound, Lord, I plant my feet on higher ground. Lord, our feet on higher ground, higher consciousness. Thank you so much. Wow. We're going to close with this prayer by James Dillett Freeman that says, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. May you know you are a blessing this week. Thank you so much. They're going to sing us out.
So, from the chorus?
No.
From the beginning?
1, 2, 3, 4. I'm pressing